podcast. This is ABC DVD, an alphabetic journey through two brothers' DVD collection that never surrenders, never gives up. I'm Noah.
I'm Josh.
And this today is Galaxy Quest.
Yes, Galaxy Quest. A Star Trek parody of sorts.
Of sorts. I think it was one of the earlier good Star Trek parodies.
Yeah, and as... Because this isn't a direct parody like Airplane or other movies are. This is its own thing, but it is heavily reliant on knowing Star Trek.
Yes.
I guess you should do the synopsis.
Do the synopsis.
All the rigmarole.
So this was released December 25th, 1999, a good Christmas Day movie. It was directed by Dean Parisot, who also did Red 2 and Bill and Ted 3. Written by David Howard, whose only other credit besides this is Trek the movie, which I have no idea what that is.
I don't know what that is.
The stars are many, so this is the more fun thing of what did IMDb list as their top credentials.
Okay, play this game.
Tim Allen.
Toy Story.
Yep.
Home Improvement.
Yep.
This?
No, well, yeah, and the Santa Claus.
Santa Claus, right.
Sigourney Weaver returns to the podcast.
Alien. Mm-hmm. Ghostbusters.
Yep.
And
Little Blue Kitty Cats.
Oh, Avatar, right.
Yep. Yeah. Alan Rickman.
Oh, that could be, I think Die Hard would probably
Die Hard is one.
Dogma?
Nope, but I like a Dogma.
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter and Robin Hood.
Robin Hood.
You know?
Thieves.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also Tony Shalhoub, whose big credit is your favorite Monk.
Monk. I do like Monk.
I also want to put some notables in this one. Mm-hmm. Sam Rockwell.
Love that guy.
Whose big things are Moon, 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
Mm-hmm. I know him from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yep, and he has a very...
Oh, no, he's a great character.
But this and the same year was Green Mile. This is when his career started to take off because he was Wild Bill in the Green Mile. And I think in 1999 is when he started to become a more known star. But there are two background actors that I want to point out. One is Rainn Wilson, who is Dwight from The Office.
Yes, he's one of the aliens.
One of the aliens in the background. Has maybe 1 or 2 lines in chorus.
Yeah.
But it's like obviously much earlier in his career. Mm-hmm. But a non-speaking role, but he definitely stands out, is Sam Lloyd, who is the lawyer Ted from Scrubs, and is also the nephew of Christopher Lloyd. But being a fan of Scrubs, I just wanted to point out, like, oh, it's Sam Lloyd. Yep. He's still getting work.
Yep. This was one of his earlier things.
Mm-hmm. So, the synopsis is, the stars of a 1970s sci-fi show, now scraping a living through reruns and sci-fi conventions, are beamed aboard an alien spacecraft. Believing the cast's heroic on-screen dramas are historical documents of real-life adventures, the band of aliens turn to the alien celebrities for help in their quest to overcome the oppressive regime in their solar system.
Yeah, I guess solar system. I mean, it's all over.
All over, but you know.
No, that's not bad.
But yeah, I mean, I think we had pointed out this is leaning heavily on Star Trek tropes and Star Trek jokes. And it put me in mind of The Orville, which is a comedy that also leans heavily on Star Trek things.
Yeah, that's an apt comparison, because I was thinking of what makes this great compared to like other parody films is that it has its own story. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know Airplane, which is like the granddaddy of parody films, leans on Airport 76 and things like that. But the story itself works, whereas like later on when you get not another movies, like Not Another Teen Movie, Not Another Hero movies, they're just references, modern day. But you get an actual story that, yeah, if you know Star Trek, you enjoy it, but if you don't, you still get a great story.
Exactly. So, you know, we start out at a convention, and I think Star Trek, beyond just the show, is also known for its conventions.
I've never been to one.
I have not either, but I have seen pictures. I mean, just like Comic-Con of today, but before Comic-Con, there were the Star Trek conventions where people would get dressed up and sign autographs and get swag, and I think this kind of embodies what that looks like.
Yeah, and we get a sense that this is a show that is very similar to the original series of Star Trek and The Next Generation. That's their main...
Yeah, Tim Allen is playing a William Shatner Kirk.
But, yeah, sorry.
But, you know, kind of like he's, you know, very egotistical. He's very much like, I am the star. And his his co-stars aren't too enthralled with the way he acts.
No, and we get Alan Rickman, who would be either the Spock
I think
equivalent
Spock.
or another Patrick Stewart equivalent. That's why I'm saying it's another original series in the Next Generation. We get the Spock as he's the sciencey character in their show, but we get this. I used to be Henry III. I could have been, the person.
Okay.
Now, in reality, Patrick Stewart loved being on Star Trek and never had that feeling of, I used to be in Hamlet.
Right. I mean, I took it more as Spock because he has the catch line that he absolutely hates, which Leonard Nimoy, who played Spock, did say he got real sick of doing the live long and prosper thing.
Yeah.
But I think, you do get this cast that obviously has history. It sets up the dynamic of us versus the main star, and him kind of coming to almost like that midlife crisis during the con of maybe I'm not as popular as I used to be.
And I'm going to try not to say, that's Star Trek and that's Star Trek, but this is a reference to an actual event that happened to William Shatner at a con.
I was wondering.
That bathroom scene of where he overhears people saying, this is these are a bunch of losers who had a show back in the day and they're still milking it. And he kind of blows up at his fans, and I think that's a real life equivalent of, if you can be cool to your fans even when you're annoyed, it makes you like the superstar. Because my mind went to if Dolly Parton was here, she wouldn't have exploded.
No, Dolly Parton does not explode. Dolly Parton is a national treasure.
Exactly.
But and I think because if I put it in time and space, this is a time period before William Shatner kind of came back to TV, and some of his Boston Legal and stuff like that. But he is, he was known for the one thing, which was he was Shatner. He was Shatner,
maybe Kojak, and maybe Rescue 911, but it was always.
But yeah, he is Kirk, and he was in this kind of well of ambiguity. Whereas, he obviously wants to be seen as a much more popular, respected TV star. And I think it does what I've said before that I enjoy, is it doesn't beat around the bush. We get to the twist rather quickly.
Yeah, we get the aliens in almost immediately.
No, and it is a fun fish out of water scene where he goes, I think I'm on a TV set, they're actually real. He's like, bing bang boom, fire the cannons, do this, that. Okay, I'm out.
And this movie does something fun with ratios, so I'm going to talk some technical stuff right now.
You talk tech.
So, when we get the first opening where they show the old TV show, we get a nice 4x3 classic TV screen, small screen look with the lines and all that.
Okay.
Then we get to the beginning of the movie, and it's what's known as normal 1.85 to 1.
Okay.
And that's what you normally see most movies at. But when Tim Allen finally realizes this is not the aliens, that he's actually on a spaceship, it expands to 2.35 to 1, which is more of an expansive
full screen.
Well, I would say full screen, but it's not quite IMAX, but it's that in between. You get a faster experience. So when he's out in space, the screen actually pulls out. And I noticed that when we were in the theaters, and this apparently caused a lot of issues for theaters too.
Okay.
Is that they didn't get a warning, so they went, this film, let's check the beginning. It's at this ratio, let's just leave the curtain at that. And then it expands out. It's like, oh crap, we gotta move it out. So
open the curtains quickly.
And I like when a film plays with the ratios for effect. So this one's an effect of saying, this is the old TV show, this is him not knowing what's going on, and then we get to the full experience, now we're in the movie, now we're in the sci-fi experience. The only other one I can think that did that was Grand Budapest Hotel, that played with ratios to a great effect.
Well, and it's and I did enjoy that Quotey Fingers teleporter scene where they shoot him back. It's that was fun. That was a different way of sending someone back.
Yeah.
And so he now realizes, crap, these are real aliens. He goes and finds his friends at a car dealership doing a commercial, which it's one of the many lines that I like, where Alan Rickman says, "Buy Grabfar's hammer." What a savings. Because it reminds me of another great actor doing a commercial you can tell they did not like.
I know which one you're talking about.
Which one am I thinking of?
Is it Anthony Hopkins?
Anthony Hopkins.
The Regal Cinema one?
He had a Regal Cinema one where he said he wanted you to go buy a
combo
pack. And you can see him audibly sighing on combo pack.
Yeah. Jumping ahead, they now get all the crew back, or all the actors back.
Which I think it shows one of the things that I remember about this movie and just getting excited about it is when Sam Rockwell screams.
Well, that's what I was going to talk about. Like, one, the Thermians are perfectly cast.
Yes.
But when we see them in their alien form and one of them has a speculum, I was like, this is going to be a thorough search.
Yes.
But then Sam Rockwell screams, and I don't think Sigourney Weaver knew that he was going to scream because you see her, and it is a genuine reaction of, oh my God.
Yep. Nope. And I think that was one of those Sam Rockwell kind of just doing it on the cusp. Like they said, oh, be scared.
Yeah.
But he just screams and everyone just stares at him. And then you get Tony Shalhoub coming out. And he plays such a good straight man. Like, that's a hell of a thing.
Yeah, you don't know if he's high or if he just rolls with the punches.
Yeah.
And I just love him in this. And I want to talk about Sigourney Weaver just for a moment because I know I gave, I don't know, crap because of her being in Cabin in the Woods when I wanted someone else. But she is perfect for this. This is that, like, oh, you want to reference old sci-fi. Having someone from Alien in this movie is perfect because you can't have any of the actual Star Trek people in there. That's too on the nose.
Yep.
But to have someone from an equally as large, it would be as like having Carrie Fisher there.
Yeah.
This is perfect casting, and she knocks it out the park.
Well, yeah, it's Sigourney Weaver, and I think she does because she has her chops in 80s and 70s cinema. She can reference like, oh no, I remember when the original Star Trek and hanging out with these people. But then we get to another scene that is completely in my zeitgeist, is the ship leaving the dock, which is very much like, you know, like any Star Trek is like, oh, you want to have like the sweeping views of it.
Oh, if you guys have seen the Star Trek, the original motion picture, they make a meal of that.
But they obviously don't know what they're doing, and they scrape the side of it. And every time I see a Star Trek or a Star Wars or any thing, and they're leaving a dock, I always just think, I'm like, well, just move it a little to the right. I know what I'm doing.
Exactly. And I quite enjoyed the idea of them watching the Thermians watching a TV show and actually making the technology.
Yes.
You go, oh, that's far-fetched. They couldn't do that. But if you look at our world today, we have been doing that with Star Trek from the beginning. My cell phone is a communicator. My iPad is the report pads. I mean, this is a thing. They're just better at it.
I just want a replicator and a holodeck. Is that too much to ask for?
Just, unlimited pizzas and, time on the holodeck.
Exactly, just time.
Don't worry what I'm doing in there.
But so then we kind of get to the real MacGuffin is everyone's like, well, what is this Omega 13 device, which was a cliffhanger ending in the 70s, show that they never really explained. And this is what the Thermians have built, that their nemesis, Cyrus, has been kind of wrecking havoc.
Yeah.
I think it is a good MacGuffin because it is like, ooh, it has that sexy sci-fi sound of an Omega 13.
And it becomes, in essence, a Deus Ex Machina at the end. But,
it does.
But they established it, so I quite enjoy it. And it's as good of a reason as any to have a story.
First time. But I want to pause and talk about Cyrus because I think you might have more insight than I do.
Yes.
I am only so far into a Star Trek universe.
Yeah.
But I did find it interesting. He is a fun mashup of lots of different typical sci-fi villainry. I mean, he's got they're obviously like a Klingon cult where warriors.
Yeah.
But their ship kind of is like Romulan green, and I was like.
They're Gorn lizards, basically.
And, but it's like, I also appreciate it because he has an eye patch, which to me referenced Star Trek 6.
The Undiscovered Country.
With, where the Klingon has a eye patch.
Yeah.
And I think there are these, I'm hoping they're fun Easter eggs, for the fans.
Well, and this is I do love this movie. It's been a while since I rewatched it. I've watched it many times, but I think it's been like 10 years since I last watched it. But when I first watched it in '99, I wasn't the biggest Star Trek fan. I had seen some of the movies, but I hadn't watched any of the shows. I think Voyager had just started, and I was just starting to get into it, and that was my first Star Trek show. And I hadn't had my friend lend me his DVDs. Now, having absorbed all of Star Trek, because that's what I do, I got a lot more references, and they're not on the nose, but they're great. I mean, they're throwaways that aren't essential to the plot, like having Tim Allen have a steak that is corn-fed Iowa beef is like, oh yeah, Kirk's from Iowa. That's a reference.
Well,
oh, they're drinking blue liquid. Is that blue milk from Star Wars? I don't know, but I'm gonna think it is.
Well, and they make a red shirt joke. Guy is terrified about staying in one place or going on the way mission because like I'm a background character, and you always kill the background character on the TV show, which is an old joke of, well, if you know, back in the 70s, if you wore the red shirt, you were gonna die.
And I love this movie plays with that because we don't really have to stay in order. Guy doesn't get hurt ever because if you were actually in a battle, you wouldn't go after the nobody, you'd go after the captain. But I love the gag of Tim Allen, signaling to mute the call, and it doesn't happen. I'm going, how many Zoom calls in the past couple of years have had that same issue?
It's like, no, just cut the feed. Oh, we can still see you. You're not wearing pants.
Exactly.
No, and I like Sigourney Weaver's joke of, look, I have one job on this ship. And it is funny because, you kind of go back and see some of the positions on Star Trek. It's like, wait, what is your job?
Yeah. Another real-world reference that I looked up, when they were trying to ask the Thermians, hey, you don't believe this is real. You can't imagine all the shows we show you are real. Gilligan's Island can't be real, and they get sad. There was a rumor going around when that came out that people actually tried to send rescue parties to an island to save Gilligan. Now, this wasn't real, but that rumor persisted for decades that people thought that it was real enough to send rescue parties.
Well, and I think, to talk about the Thermians watching this, it reminded me of the movie Contact.
Oh, yeah.
About how that our TV signals and our radio signals have, dissipated out into space, and that in the movie Contact, it was all like, oh no, an alien race picked up on our earliest broadcast signals, and that's how they figured out about us. So I think it's a fun twist, say like, no, they have been watching the sitcoms, and they do believe it's real.
Yeah. Should we go down to the planet?
Yeah, the classic desert planet.
Exactly.
It looks a lot like California, but it's a desert planet.
It's the Valdez Rocks or something that are classic for Star Trek. But yeah, and I love is there air? You don't know, because no one ever checks.
No one. I mean,
and I love that Tony Shalhoub is eating his snack. You see him bring his sack lunch that he brought to the car signing, and he carries it with him, and he's just eating it all the way through because he didn't get a real lunch.
Nope. He's like, I'm going to eat this. I'm not that worried.
Yeah.
But yeah, we get another great line: miners, not miners.
It's such a stupid joke, but I laugh every time.
It's a dad joke, and I appreciate it.
And I also appreciate Sam Rockwell again of when someone knows the tropes of the movie they're in and they point it out. I think Scream did this.
Scream did it really well.
Really well, but this one I love of, did you even watch the show? There's going to be a lot of them, and they're going to turn evil, and it's like, no, they're not. It's like, that's exactly what happens.
But yeah, and you get the classic Kirk roll. It's like, does rolling help? Well, it makes me feel good.
Yeah,
like, well, where's your gun?
Exactly. And it's like, and what happens to his shirt? It has to come off.
And it's like, that's the funny thing is like, he's, fighting the monster, his shirt comes up, and my son who's watching goes, wait, where does his shirt go? I'm like, that is the mystery, isn't it? His shirt just vanishes.
Yeah, and their version of a teleporter is hilarious. That they, inside out a creature, and I love that they said they based it off the movements of of Tony Shalhoub in his show. Because I don't know if this is a reference to Doctor Who, but I'm going to think it is.
Okay,
is that when that first started, the actor hadn't really done sci-fi or kids stuff, but he wanted it to be consistent and real, so he always associated like this switch does this switch does that. So when the show eventually got new directors and new crew, and they said, oh, we need you to open the door, just flip the switch, and he went, that's not the door switch is on the other side, I need to go over there. And they went, well, what does it matter? It's like, the kids will know. No. They pay attention, and
I appreciate an actor who's going to put the effort and say like, no, the button has to be this one, because I think as the joke goes, Star Trek fans will notice if you change something, because they will sit there and be like, oh, no, here is the, that layout of a ship.
And this, we kind of glossed over the character that represents the Star Trek fan of the I'm a Mac guy. Of the kid fans, the teen fans. Yeah, this is his first movie.
Yeah, he was the guy on the PC Mac commercial where he's the Mac talking to the PC. But yeah, no, I mean, I think
Jeremy Long. No,
But so yeah, so
Justin Long. That's his name.
Justin Long.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, he, as we did kind of gloss over, they they meet and they change recorders, and as my wife said, that it is Chekhov's recorder because it's got to come back later.
And it's Chekhov, so it's Star Trek.
It's Star Trek Chekhov. You know, he's got keys and friends and credit cards.
Exactly.
But no, we get off the planet. You know, they make a miraculous, save. They beam him back up. But Cyrus has taken over the ship. And there's something from my childhood that it's still, when I watch this movie, and it's like I still look for it every time, is every time I look at Cyrus's minions' guns, they look like cartoon sub sandwiches to me.
They do.
A bun, and a gun stuck in the middle.
It's like the precursor to the guns from Fifth Element, is how I viewed it.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
And since Sam Rockwell and Gary Oldman look similar in that, when Gary Oldman looks in Fifth Element, it weirds me out every time.
But yeah, they take over, and they need to get help from the Geek Squad.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so they, it's like, okay, we have to go stop the timer from destroying the ship. We have to do this. And they go through the ducks.
And we get one of the greatest
dubs,
ADRs or redubs in movie history for me, because Sigourney Weaver says, well, screw that. And if you look at her lips, and it's not hard to read, that's not what she says.
No.
And there's a couple ADR moments that clearly this was going to be a PG-13 to R originally, or they didn't know with improv. They said, no, let's tone it down. You can see that she's saying something that is not a duck, but rhymes with duck.
So it is fun to always watch it and be like, that's not what she said.
Yeah, this is probably my favorite line to repeat when I watch a sci-fi show where something stupid is happening. It's like, well, why is this here? It's like, it was written. It's like, well, it was badly written. Because it makes no sense.
Why would there be a giant fireball in the belly? It's like, I don't know. It made for great TV.
Exactly.
But they do another trope that I know that has been done in lots of other comedies of like, the bomb doesn't stop until it hits 1 second.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that is cliche upon cliche, and I love that they leaned into it. I was like, well, we're done. It's like, oh, no, we have to wait until it actually gets to 1 second. I always do this whenever there's a countdown or something. I will count in real life like a jerk.
Oh.
And to see
how close they got.
How close they got. So knowing that the Omega-13, that was established that it possibly could either destroy the entire universe in 13 seconds or jump you back in 13 seconds, so why not give it a shot?
Sure.
So Tim Allen jumps back 13 seconds, and it is well more than 13 seconds. But,
because Cyrus has, disguised himself as a very cunning Tony Shalhoub and tried to kill everyone on the bridge, except Guy.
Except Guy.
Everyone gets shot except Guy.
Except Guy.
So he goes back in time and stops Cyrus, but then the spaceship is going to crash.
Yep, it's going too fast and will destroy the planet if it hits it.
Exactly. And there's one scene that I appreciate as a father, is when Nerdy Kid is going out with a bunch of fireworks and the parents are like, what are you doing? And he yammers off something, and they both just kind of look and go, okay, I've definitely had that moment where my kid's like, Dad, I want to tell you about this Pokemon. And I just kind of look at them and I zone out and go, okay, that's awesome. Go have fun.
I love that. It's like, well, at least he's outside.
At least he's outside. He's got friends.
And I have to say that ship landing one takes out a couple of cars. People are going to be pissed. And luckily, no one was going to that shop at that particular time, because they crashed right through
They crashed through a lot of things.
No one was killed in the landing of the ship.
But I remember you telling the kids, like, wait for this amazing moment when the alien gets killed and he gets zapped, and then it's like a
little firework.
Little firework goes off.
Yeah. And
the only thing I think I appreciate, this is also just my childhood, is the MC for that con was one of the actors from Kids in the Hall.
Yeah, we do love Kids in the Hall.
If you've ever had a chance to watch the Canadian SNL version of the 90s.
SNL or Monty Python.
Monty Python is a better one.
It's a sketch comedy group.
It's weird, but it is fun to check out Kids in the Hall.
Yeah. And then we get that they're making another show.
Yeah, and it's very much a next generation
feeling. And that guy gets to be the security officer and gets a last name finally.
And it's like, from what I remember, and this is also time and space, is about this time is when Star Trek was starting to cool off. because you got 99 because Voyager ends about 2000, 2001. So a lot of the hype around Star Wars is beginning to cool off.
Yeah.
And so it is kind of funny to have this in retrospective. Like, Star Trek was off its zenith at this point.
And what was really nice about this movie is the creators of Star Trek loved this movie. The actors of Star Trek loved this movie. I mean, William Shatner said he desperately wanted a rock monster in the show or in Star Trek V that he directed and could never make it happen. And then he gets to see in this movie, it's like, I am so jealous you got to do that.
Well, and I think if this was made today, there would have been more cameos put in.
Yeah.
And I don't think it would have worked.
Nods, no.
I don't think it would have worked as well. I appreciate because it's still a 90s movie that they're being very restrained.
And you were saying this is like towards the end of the Star Trek, and I think they kind of claimed this movie as one of the Star Trek movies.
Okay.
At the time. There's like, this is one of, it's like, we love it. This is one of them. And some history on making of the movie. This was going to be a Harold Ramis. This was pitched by Harold Ramis.
Okay.
And they wanted different actors for the lead role. And when Tim Allen was cast, Harold Ramis wasn't that thrilled, and so he dropped out and went to the director. But when he saw, I was like, no, he did a great job. Some other behind the scene things I noticed. Tim Allen is a giant nerd for the Alien franchise. And like most giant nerds, even in this movie, portray as you have to do it with tact. And unfortunately, he didn't. He hounded Sigourney Weaver to sign like his version of the model of their ship. And she finally just got frustrated. Like, Tim Allen stole this, signed Sigourney Weaver. I was like, why would you do that? I was like, you annoyed me all day.
You annoyed me all day. I bet she gets... I mean, I've heard the stories that it's, as much as the cons are great for fans, that sometimes the actors of Star Trek were like, it really gets tiresome, sitting for like 8 hours signing pictures. I'm like, they love their fans, but it is that thing of, oh, I am so tired of being hounded.
Yeah. I forgot to mention one of the technical aspects of this movie that I'm quite appreciative of. If you watch classic sci-fi, when they get hit by a laser, everyone does what's called like the shake from your core, from your center. They get trained to like everyone shake in sync, and it doesn't always work.
Right.
Well, they didn't want that for this movie, so they built the entire set on a gimbal, so the whole thing would shake. And so, if they're holding on for dear life, they're literally holding on for dear life.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of the things that sci-fi is going back to is more practical. You got J.J. Abrams like, no, we're not going to CG it up. We're actually going to have a giant wind machine on set so you look like you're falling through, the atmosphere.
Yeah. And I heard that they wanted to make a sequel, that there were early developments, but sadly Alan Rickman died.
Yes.
And they was like, we can't have this movie without Alan Rickman. He's like, what holds it together?
I mean, Alan Rickman always chews up a scene. I mean, that's the funny thing about him always complaining that Tim Allen steals the show. Is like, Alan Rickman in most of his movies, when he's there, will just absorb the audience's attention in a scene.
Yeah, and he said, I think in an interview about this movie, is like, he doesn't do much, he hadn't done much sci-fi, but he read the script and was like, I have to do this. This is just my wheelhouse.
Well, and I appreciate that he is very much in the zeitgeist of, the greats of Hollywood, because watching with my 9-year-old daughter, she went, oh my gosh, that's Professor Snape. Is that... The joke is like, when you hear Alan Rickman, that it's Alan Rickman.
Yes, the key to Alan Rickman's acting is that his lips never actually touch his teeth.
So I would suggest this to just about anyone. If you've ever seen a Star Trek or enough about the franchise, you would get a good chuckle. I think it's a fun late 90s comedy that still holds up. There's nothing in here that's that cringeworthy. There's nothing like, that you have to look past the data graphs. Like, no, this is a solid film. I was excited when this came up on our list. I'm like, oh, right, we're doing Galaxy Quest for G.
Yeah, this holds up. Like I said, it had been a while since I watched it, so I was happy that I got to see it. I'm glad it's in my collection. I will rewatch it for fun. It has made me connect with people who's like, oh, I really love Galaxy Quest, or just people's like, I kind of like sci-fi. Is there something fun I could watch? It's like, this is the one I would suggest. So I hope you guys watched it, and if not, I hope you guys will watch it.
Yeah, I mean, just like everything, grains of salt if this is not your bread and butter, but I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
From leaving the planet to hacking the planet.
Oh.
Our next one is hackers, because that is exactly how the internet looks.
I love this movie. I'm excited to see this movie.
This movie is cheesy. It was cheesy back then. It is so cheesy now. But the...
Hack the planet, man.
Hack the planet. If you want to know how hackers don't work, watch this. So that will be our next movie for H. Hackers.
Please watch it and join us next week.
All right. Y'all take care.
Bye.
Bye.
I thought I'd have to wait till Toy Story to talk about Pendulent. Yeah, he's in there with Tim Allen. Connections.
Connections.
This is how my brain works.